them with them, but only for a short time. You need to keep an opening. Only for a short time. You need to keep an opening.
Alright, what's going on there? So we're going to go over this Infinite Heroic build for Kate Bishop. Now, this build pretty much makes a little bit more of her kit viable. And what I mean by viable is the ultimate is not the best option for Kate. Generally speaking, scatter shots is way better. It may not be as fun for some people. Some people may like melee more, but whenever we're talking about efficiency, we're talking about speed running, things of that nature, you're not going to be mentioning the ultimate. Now with this setup, you're going to actually be using the ultimate, and you're going to be using scatter shots. Not only that, but you're going to have a lot of warp arrows and a lot more crowd control than you normally would. So for slot 1, you're going to want to have this third perk, specifically rampant assistance. This is why I have a 234% heroic recharge rate. So you have to have it on your slot 1. You can put it on slot 3, this perk, but it does not work whenever it comes on slot 3. It's actually under a different name, and it says 3%. It bumps your heroic recharge up by 20%. So you have to have it on this one, and you want to have shock on signature attacks. Power attacks is fine, but you want to have signature attacks. But the main thing is the third perk, and you want to have shock specifically. And then the Fountain of Spark on top, that just tops it all off. An amazingly rolled piece. Valor, Intensity, and Resolve. Prefer to have some type of precision or proficiency in there, but I will take this, especially with the 3 perks that it comes with. On slot 2, there are a few ways you can do this slot 2. The most efficient way, honestly, is to run this invulnerability, if I'm gonna be real. That's the most reliable way. But the best way is to run an intrinsic burst. Whenever you run this intrinsic burst, you only have to do maybe 2 scatter shots. As long as one of them activate the intrinsic burst, you're gonna have your intrinsic meter full, which is gonna put you overcharged. Because you're gonna have this equipped in your skill tree right here, which is gonna increase the rate in which your intrinsic energy regenerates by 30%. So that 30% goes along with this intrinsic burst. Every time that you take damage, your intrinsic meter is going to go down unless it's already full. That's why the invulnerability buff is a little bit more reliable. But with that said, if you have the skill level, I suggest running this intrinsic burst. And this also needs to be the shock status effect. Now on slot 3, this is what I go for. This is the Escorting Guard with the reverberation breaker. Now you prefer to have this with Might, Valor, and Precision, or Valor and Precision. The Might actually does come in handy because you will be doing a few melee attacks while you're in her ultimate, and not just for the melee attacks, but the decoy damage. Whenever you explode your decoy, it scales off of Might, and so does the damage from the Assaultoroid. It scales off of Might as well. You'll be destroying your decoy and shooting a lot of Assaultoroids with this build. Now this is the piece that a lot of people would like to run and have the overcharge boost on, or whatever, or the heroic recharge boost. But again, this only boosts your heroic recharge by about 20%. You can see as I equip it now, my heroic recharge on pretty much every single one, on every single one goes up by 20%. But if you want to have a little bit more resolve, a little bit more resilience, you can definitely feel free to run this. One thing I will say is that the second perk, Auto Blink, it is affected by your crit chance. So for example, I will go over right now. You can see right now I have a 15% chance to automatically phase shift. If I put on a little bit more proficiency, that 15% chance is going to go up to a 17% chance to automatically phase shift. And you can see if I do the same thing again, it's going to go up even more. If I have a slot, I put it on right here actually. So now it's a 17.9%. So the more proficiency you have, and that's the same thing with every single perk, right? So right now my heroic recharge melee is 23% chance. If I take off a little bit of proficiency, it's going to drop to a 21%. Take off a little bit more proficiency, it's going to drop to a 20%. Now I said all of that to say that 15% is a very low percent. If you want this to proc a lot, you need to have it at like 20%. If you put this at 20%, that's a lot of proficiency. If you run a lot of proficiency, then your build is probably not good. So therefore the perk, I'm not going to say it's not good, but it's not really worth specking into. But this video is not even about this perk, just me going on a little tangent. Now for your slot 4 piece, you're going to want this Archer's Charm, and this is a great role as well. Valor, Might, Precision. Like I mentioned before, Might definitely helps out. If you don't want to have the Might, then definitely farm one with the Resolve on it. But this goes hand in hand with this slot 2 piece. By the time you do 1 or 2 scatter shots, you're pretty much going to have your intrinsic full. So by the time you get to that 16 hit, you'll still have this 300% or 200% heroic recharge rate. If you want to go for a little bit more damage, then you can go for this 16 hit buff right here. That's going to get you a little bit more damage, or not a little bit more damage. It's going to get you 60% more damage, to be specific. Now, if you do have this heroic, or if you do have this damage buff instead of the heroic recharge burst, then obviously you're going to have to either pick up orbs or do takedowns. And the same thing can be said with this intrinsic burst right here, with the 16 hit intrinsic burst. 16 hit intrinsic burst is kind of good as well, but none of it really beats the 16 hit heroic recharge burst for this specifically. Now for the minor ISO, obviously I have this one right here, the North Stone of the Bulwark, Precision and Valor. Prefer to have Precision, Valor, and Proficiency on this. I would like to have Proficiency on this, but can't get every stat roll that you want. For the other minor artifact, I run with the Cosmic ISO of Affinity, and this is going to give me the Cosmic Surge buff, which is going to be proccing a good bit, and that's going to help me get my heroics back even faster. Now another thing that I also like to do, I actually make use of this Northern Stone of the Bulwark. Now with this setup, this is how I get my most consistent damage, if I'm being honest, and that's why I said you want to have shock as your main 2 pieces. So as far as your slot 1 and your slot 2 status effect. So anytime you defeat an enemy that has a shock status effect, there's a 30% chance that you're going to get a damage buff. So now you're still able to get that 60% damage increase. Another thing that you could do is run this Northern Stone of the Vanguard right here. So anytime you're defeating the enemy with the Vibranium status effect, you're going to get this lethal conduit sent to you, and you're going to become a receiver. Every time you become a receiver, you get an immediate intrinsic and heroic recharge boost, and it's just a small amount, but with 300%, it turns that small amount into a huge amount. Not only that, but this is going to give you the Vibranium payload on melee attacks. So whenever you actually pop your ultimate, you do a lot of the slices and everything like that, you'll be able to get the melee attacks, the Vibranium payload from the sword and the scythe, which is this right here. The scythe itself, as far as the projectiles, do not proc melee perks. They don't proc melee perks. They proc range perks. So you can take this off. You can still put back on this Valor, Precision, Proficiency piece, and you will still be able to proc the range perks from the projectiles. The melee perks proc from the sword. Now, if you're wondering why I don't run the triple Valor ISO on the minor artifact, I could run the triple valor ISO, but I find that having a damage buff up for about half of the time, or either being able to have valor, precision, and proficiency, which is going to help proc this first perk whenever I do go into my ultimate, which is going to help proc this second perk, or this first perk and this third perk right here. I found it a lot more valuable than having this triple valor piece, because either way it goes, the enemies are going to be destroyed whenever you shoot your warp arrow, so all of that valor is pretty much overkill. Now, as far as your skill setup, there are a few things that you want to have. You want to have afterglow on, especially if you take off this piece right here, like I mentioned earlier. Sometimes I do run with this one right here. Now I don't have the cosmic ISO, or the cosmic ISO of infinity, whatever, so you're going to want to have this afterglow on, and that's how you're going to recover your willpower and intrinsic energy. Now for this part right here, you're going to have probability matrix on. Now you could have this one on, healing light, but the reason why I don't run this is because generally speaking, most people, if they're about to die, then they're gonna die. They're not just gonna run over like, oh, I'm about to die, and try to find the health pack. Like if they die, they die. Like that's generally how it happens, right? So running health packs is kind of pointless in the state of the game. Obviously, if you want singularity arrows, obviously you want to have your assault heroic set up like this right here, the extra one and the singularity arrow. For your ultimate, you want to have it on the scythe, specifically on the scythe, because that's how you're going to proc your range perks whenever you are in your ultimate. And for this section right here, you want your assault heroics to recharge 50% faster when quantum overdrive is active. You could turn it to quantum magnifier. I just don't find that 10% to outweigh this 50%, because at the end of the day, most of the damage that you're going to be doing anyway is not going to be from the scythes. Oh snap, Infamous just sent me. Oh, Infamous wants to run the raid. Oh, I gotta finish this video. Alright, so quantum magnifier, boom. Alright, so for this section over here, you want flying solo. I ain't gonna be able to finish this video. Whatever. For this section, you want flying solo. Increases the damage while juggling enemies by 20%. And one quick way to juggle enemies is by doing the power attacks, which is right, where is it at? Right here. You can do the power attacks, and whenever you explode it, the enemies will juggle up into the air, and this whenever you can follow with whatever type of attack that you want to do. Lasting impression, because this is your demolition arrows. That's from whenever you press triangle, which is the power attack. All of these are pretty self-explanatory. This section, obviously, you want to have it on. Increases the rate in which your intrinsic energy regenerates. Now, as far as I'm concerned, this does not affect the scythe amount. So this only affects melee attacks and scatter shots. Now, as far as I can tell, whenever you're in the ultimate and you fully draw your bow while you're in your ultimate, you know, like you draw your bow and you're gonna shoot, this does not work. So this extra 20% damage on intrinsic attacks is actually pretty useful, but most of your attacks, even when you're doing melee, not gonna be intrinsic attacks. Like you're literally just gonna be pressing square and slinging your sword. And quantum capacitor for this section, and all of these over here are pretty much self-explanatory as well. And another thing that I also do is whenever the time is right, I'll also put on this dark oak, and that's just going to pretty much allow you to do like 7-8 warp arrows whenever the need be. So like I said, just run this 2% on slot 2, on slot 1, slot 2, run an intrinsic burst. If you want to, you could run a heroic recharge burst or whatever, vulnerability buff, but intrinsic burst works best. Run extra damage on your slot 3, because you're not going to have the Tachyon Surge, so push out as much damage as possible. Slot 4, you're going to want the recharge burst, damage buff right here. If you're uncomfortable running the damage buff and you really want to get your heroics back a little bit quicker, then run the cosmic reactive surge right here. If you want to help out your teammates a little bit more, take a little bit more advantage of the melee attacks in your ultimate, put on the Northstone of the Vanguard. Whenever you're fighting mobs, turn on the ring or turn on the dark hole, either one of them. Whenever you're fighting a boss, you do not run this build.
know you are going to die.